What is up, guys? Welcome back to Mateo Family Vibes. Welcome back to the channel. Now, have you ever wondered how are you going to get around in the Philippines once you actually get here? There are a myriad of different ways that you can find transportation when you're living here in the Philippines. Now, I'm going to share with you in this video some of the top apps that you can use to get around in the Metro Manila area and also some of the major cities around the Philippines. So let's get right into it. Let me show you some of the apps that you can actually use to get around in the Philippines. All right, so let's get the first one out the way, which is probably the most popular one, the one that most people use to get around in Metro Manila, and that is Grab. Grab is pretty much our version of Uber from the States, okay? Very popular app, and just like Uber, you can do a lot of different things with it. So you can obviously order a car with it. They have 6-seaters, 4-seaters. You could share a ride. You could do also a taxi with it as well, Grab Taxi. But also you could do order food. You can order groceries. I mean, the app itself is a very good application. The only limitations that we have on Grab or on any other ride-hailing services that we have here is essentially that it's not like in the States where you can get an Uber to take you from, like, let's say Tampa, Florida to Tallahassee or to Georgia, even to another state. But here, it's very limited to a specific region. Okay, so I can't take, let's say, a Grab from Metro Manila to like Pampanga. Okay, it won't let me do it, it's too far out. So keep that in mind when you come here. The options of where you can go are very limited. Where you're not going to be able to go out too far out into the provinces with Grab or with really any kind of major ride sharing app. So something you have to keep that in mind. If you want to go to Pampanga or Baguio or any of those places, you're probably going to need to take a bus to get there, or take a less than an hour plane ride to get there in some of these cities. So the cool thing about the Philippines is that if you can't get to it via bus, because you have to go through a different island, because there's 7,000 islands here, is that you can take an airplane ride over to any of the islands, and typically it's only about, I would say, about an hour flight time going to any of these islands, and then you can pretty much take boats and things of that nature to get to your specific island that you want to go to. So things to keep in mind when you're coming over to the Philippines. So Grab is the first one. Now, if you are feeling adventurous and you don't feel like taking a car, you can take a motorbike. So here you will see motorbikes everywhere. It is extremely popular here to have a motorbike here. A lot of people use motorbikes here. They're all over the place, and it's honestly a faster way to get somewhere in the Philippines, especially in Metro Manila, because traffic is just horrendous. So there are some popular apps for motorbikes. The first one is Ankas. So Ankas is a very popular motorbike app. It's just like Grab, but for specifically motorbikes. Okay. There's also JoyRide is another app as well that you can get for motorbike. A third one is called Move It. That's another one as well. Those are all motorbikes ordering, ride-hailing applications. So if you want to feel adventurous, you're not scared to get on a motorbike, you want to get there faster, and typically it's a lot cheaper as well because you're taking a motorbike. So those would be the major kind of motorbike apps that you can use here in the Philippines. Now, there are more options when it comes to cabs apps. So like in the US, we have basically just kind of Uber and Lyft. Here, we do have a lot more options. Now, one of the options that I think are very kind of not looked at very often is an app called Maxim. Now, Maxim is a ride-hailing app just like Grab is, but the difference is that they go a little bit more outside of the Metro Manila area. So if you're looking to go a little bit deeper into the provinces, Maxim is the one that you want to use for those specific for that specific feature, essentially, because they do go a little bit outside into the provinces. Okay, now they don't go all the way too far out there, but again, they go a lot further out than your typical Grab would go out to. Another app to mention here is called InDrive. Now, InDrive is a little bit different because in the app itself, you can actually negotiate your fare with drivers. So let's say you want to go somewhere, you can say, I want to go here, and then I'm willing to pay whatever, 300 pesos, 400 pesos, whatever it is you put in the app. Now, the cool thing about it is that you can negotiate with drivers, and the negotiation of pricing happens before the booking actually takes place. So you can put in where you're going and how much you're willing to pay, and then obviously from there, if any drivers want to take you, they'll accept, or they can even negotiate back with you what the actual price of the fare is going to be before it actually books a driver. So it doesn't make it uncomfortable in the sense of when you get in the car, you're kind of arguing of how much the price is going to be. That's all negotiated before the app, before the booking takes place. But it is another option, obviously, because it just lets you, the consumer, try to negotiate for a lower fare than what you would normally expect to pay on a Grab or anything like that. Now, a couple of new different apps that just popped up is PeakUp and Green GSM. Now, Green GSM is basically like a Grab, but it's basically electric vehicles. And then PeakUp, I haven't heard too much about it, but it is a newer app that just came into the market. It does pretty much the same thing: compact cars, 6-seaters, taxi cabs, and everything like that, just like Grab does. Okay, so another app that you might want to check out. And then the last one I'll mention here is basically going to be MCAB. MCAB is essentially like a Grab, but specifically for taxis. So if you just want an actual taxi, then you want to use MCAB. Now, a couple things I'll say about taxis is there have been a lot of stories here in the Philippines about taxi drivers essentially taking advantage of riders. And so that's why a lot of people like to use the ride hailing services like Grab, because it's a guaranteed fare. You don't need to essentially argue over pricing or anything like that. A lot of times what happens is the taxi drivers they won't use the meter, essentially, is really the problem. So they'll just try to spit you out a price, and they won't use a meter for it. The meter is there for a reason, obviously. Is for essentially your protection, so you know exactly what the ride is going to cost at a fair price. But a lot of these taxi drivers, unfortunately, are turning off their meters and things of that nature. So it turns into a big hassle. So before you get into any kind of taxi, please make sure up front to ask, is the meter working? And are you going to be using the meter during this ride? If they're not using the meter, honestly, probably not worth getting into that ride, because they're probably going to overcharge you, especially if you are a foreigner. If you're a foreigner, you are literally a walking ATM to most of everybody here, okay? So please keep that in mind, especially in the airport. Airport's the worst, okay? Airport is the worst. So if you can, when you're coming into the airport, please just order a Grab. All right, order a Grab, or get like I talked about in a previous video, take the shuttle from one of the terminals to Terminal 3, the Sky Bridge across, get into Newport, and then you can order a Grab from Newport. But definitely, just be very cautious when you're using a taxi, especially when they're not using a meter. That's the biggest thing. And do not be scared to report the taxi driver. Okay, get the license plate of the taxi driver and don't be afraid to report it, because anytime, especially in the airport, they have literally taken away licenses of taxi drivers, suspended taxi drivers, and things of that nature. You can look it up online of a myriad of different taxi drivers. And by the way, these aren't the people that are arguing over the prices. These aren't just foreigners. These are actually locals, Filipinos, that are getting, overcharged as well. So it's not just foreigners. There are Filipinos that are getting literally overcharged an insane amount of money for literally going from one terminal to another terminal, which should cost very minimum 300 or less pesos. They're trying to charge them over 1,000 pesos for something like that. It's ridiculous. Okay, so just keep it on the safe side and just use one of the ride hailing apps that I mentioned in this video, and just keep it that simple. If you need to go out further out into the provinces, like you want to go to Baguio or Pampangas, you're gonna pretty much take a bus to get there anyways, and the buses are like stupid cheap, and they're really comfortable if you get one of the newer buses. So there are different ways to get around. I'll tell you one last thing is, if you live near an LRT, MRT station, get you a beep card. Okay, a beep card is just like a little loadable card, all right, that you load money onto. And so if you're going to use the train back and forth to get around, so we like to use the Metro, the MRT or the LRT to go to different places if it's close to the stations. And if you just load up the beep card, you can load up with 1,000 pesos on it, and you don't have to wait in line for a ticket or anything like that. You just walk in and just scan the card and then be on your way. You don't have to kind of, do anything or wait in a long line to buy like an individual ticket or something of that nature. So if you're going to live near an MRT, LRT station, those are going to be, that's going to be a very good way to get around. And you don't need to carry a lot with you, just literally the card itself. It's the size of a credit card, and you can load money on it. So hopefully this video brought you some different insights into the different ways that you can travel here into the Philippines, and we'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching the video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.